listeners and supporters. I am your host, Brianna, podcast Bree Harris, and I am so excited to be here. If you're a new audience member, we are so grateful to have you. Welcome to another episode of Connected, where we discuss all things mental health, employment, and stories. We are completely honored to be in the presence of this next guest, as she has been a steadfast advocate for her city. She was first elected to the Concord City Council in November of 2016, re-elected in 2020, served as vice mayor in 2018 and 2024, and she served as Concord's mayor in 2019. Her leadership is characterized by focus on public safety, housing, and infrastructure. Her commitment to Concord is evident through her extensive involvement in various committees and initiatives. After becoming a political leader, she made it her mission to do wellness checks with long-standing businesses in Concord to figure out what's working. With this knowledge, she was able to establish systems that fostered her city's growth and service. Beyond her official roles, she is deeply embedded in the fabric of Concord's community life. She has chaired the city's July 4th parade since 2016. She also founded the annual art and wine and beer walk events that bring residents together and celebrate local culture. In this episode, we'll delve into her personal journey into politics, shedding light on common misconceptions about her role and her approach to mental health amidst demands of leadership. Please welcome Mayor of Concord, California, Carlyn Obringer.
Thank you for the very warm welcome. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. How are you feeling today?
I am doing great. I'm delighted to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have Carlyn here. She took time out of her really busy schedule to come here and be at Connections House and just do a sit down and we can get to better know you. She looks great today. I love her boots. I love the brown. I'm such an earth tone type of person.
You look nice
so
too.
Thank
I
you
like your
so
outfit.
Thank you. And she always has really cute boots on. Every time I see her or interviews or anything, she has like these really cute boots on. So I appreciate that about you. Very stylish still as a political figure.
Thank you.
So Carlyn, you are involved in so many different things. Like the list is extensive. So just like this is a mental health podcast. So like how are you taking care of your mental health in all of this?
Well, thank you for asking. And I really try to take things day by day. Every day is different. And for my personality, probably in a different life, I would have been more comfortable just doing a job where I did the same thing every day, maybe working at a store, running a small business. But that is not how things are in my life. And so I don't think I'm going to develop Alzheimer's because I don't do the same thing every single day. So I try to wake up early and I try to start the day with purpose. Whenever I'm walking my dog, I usually walk my dog Coco around 5:40 in the morning. I try to take some time for meditation. I am a spiritual person, and so I do some devotions oftentimes, some journaling. It doesn't take a lot of time, but on the days that I don't do it, I feel like my day is not properly set with a good foundation. So that's what I try to do. And then I try to be really open-minded because I do try to set my schedule and meet all of the requests and demands, but I also need to learn every day to be more flexible because there's always going to be something unexpected. So trying to get more comfortable with the unexpected.
That's really good. And I'm glad that you touched on, your spirituality. I totally get that. I'm about to be approaching 30. And so now I'm in this mode of I got to get my life together or I have to start establishing a better routine for myself so that my day is set and my days don't feel as chaotic. Because when you wake up and you know exactly what you're going to do, you're set out, and some things happen, life happens, things might not always go the right way, but just starting your days with intention, getting up early is really hard for me, but getting up early, making time for to give thanks, to give praise, and stretching, going for walks and stuff like that. I'm glad that you're able to do that and you make time for it. It's a good solid foundation. You talked about you would probably like to have a job where you do the same thing every day. So if you weren't mayor, what would you be doing?
Well, my life journey is very different than when I started. I grew up in Western Pennsylvania. My mother was a teacher. My father was a small business owner. I think, again, I'm more of a person who enjoys routine. So I don't know. I'm very grateful for the path that I do have, though, being here, living in Concord, where now I've lived in my home in Concord longer than I've lived anywhere else. With my husband, my dog Coco, who I mentioned, as well as my brother-in-law lives with us as well. So I'm not quite sure, but I think that in this day and age, every job comes with the opportunity and the expectation to keep learning and keep growing. So that's what I try to do with both my day job, which is in healthcare, as well as in my city role.
Okay, gotcha. So do you think that you would be just doing your day job if you weren't the mayor?
It's interesting because I don't know that that would be the case, because going back to when I was in college or even in high school, I always had extracurricular things that I did.
Gotcha.
So I do like to supplement what I do, and I do have a lot of energy, and I enjoy being involved in many things.
Gotcha.
So I think that regardless of if I'm in elected office, I think wherever I am, I will always be involved in civic engagement, because I like to know people.
Yeah.
And I like to help people figure out systems. And in this case, it's government, which can be very confusing sometimes, but it shouldn't be. It should work to serve the people that it's set up to help. So, am I going to be an elected official forever? The answer is definitely no. Although we do have some people in Congress who seem like they are going to be there forever.
Right.
But always civic engagement is very important to me.
Okay, that makes sense. Gotcha. And that's important. You're like, I know myself. I know this is, if I was a mayor, I'm going to be doing something where I'm serving people.
Exactly.
Cool. So you did mention that being mayor, there are certain expectations that you have and you serve the people, and it can be very confusing. Politics can be very confusing. And so we did our due diligence and our research here at the clubhouse and figured out, how did you even become the mayor? And so for people that don't know, you were elected to city council first, and from city council, your colleagues elect you to be mayor?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool beans. For you, how has that process been, being elected by the city council versus like the people?
Sure. So this is a very confusing process for people. However, this is the process that Concord has had since it was a farming community. And so every city in Contra Costa County has a system of the city council members, while the work might be full-time, the pay, if you do get paid, is not. And so as a result, and there are some cities, the cities of Martinez, Brentwood, Antioch, and at least Richmond and San Ramon have a directly elected mayor. And that's a decision that the community has made. So in Concord, we've always done this rotation. And since the council members either have to be A, independently wealthy, which I am not, B, retired, which I am not, or C, also have to be gainfully employed for another employer, the way that we do rotate around, I think, works best, so that, I'm thankful I have a flexible employer who does understand and value what I do. However, if you were doing this for 4 years as a directly elected mayor, I think that would be very hard to negotiate and make the case to the day job employer that you aren't cheating them in some way.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, so I think it gets confusing for people because there is a different mayor each year, but I think it also puts the onus on whoever is mayor to set their intention and then do the best that they can, because there's a lot of different initiatives that find you throughout the year, I can tell you. But this time I was mayor one other time, as you mentioned in the beginning, in 2019, and it was a brand new experience. It was a wonderful experience. But at that time, I decided I wanted to do September of service events, which I'm bringing back again. So one cleanup or park beautification event in each city council district. So I did that then. I'm doing that again this year. But I continued it in my city council district in the years in between.
Okay.
Same thing, economic development is really important to me. So in my previous time as mayor, I made a point of going and doing business goodwill visits. And so when I came into this role this time, I said, I definitely want to set these up quarterly. I don't want them all to happen at the end of my time as mayor. And then just taking a look, and the third thing, I knew I would just have a year, so I decided what is something I want to focus on. And this year I really want to work on trying to raise funds for one of our historic properties. That's the Don Fernando Pacheco Adobe. So I'm going to be establishing the Mayor's Bowling fundraiser in October. But you really don't have a lot more time than that. Because you just have the 1 year. So you got to go in with intention and set those intentions in December.
And be prepared.
Yes, exactly.
Be prepared. Okay, so thank you for that. That cleared up a lot of things for me, but I'm still a little confused. And maybe our audience is still a little confused. So you mentioned that you were mayor once in 2019. You possibly have a year, but then I also seen that your term expires in 2028. So is that your term as city council or as mayor? Okay.
Exactly. So I was first elected in 2016 to the city council, and in 2019, from December 2018 until December 2019, I served as mayor. Then I was re-elected in 2020, and I was re-elected again in 2024. And so that's, as I'm coming into my third term, this is my second opportunity, because it really depends on who is on the city council, and there was COVID, and so one of the council members ended up serving as mayor for 2 years.
Gotcha.
So that's where the rotation changed.
Okay, gotcha. All right, cool. If you guys have any other questions, email her.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I want to take it back a little bit. Like, what was your upbringing like? What got you into politics? What did you do for fun growing up?
Sure. So as I mentioned, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, and my mother was a public high school teacher, and my father had a small business. And, you know, my grandparents, I was close with my maternal grandparents, and even though it wasn't that common, my maternal grandmother worked until she was 76 as an administrative professional, and my grandfather had worked in a steel mill. So very, blue collar environment, and both my parents were the first in their families in that generation to go to college. So growing up, we would volunteer in the community, and because both of them were involved in the community, given their professions and public service. But I never aspired to be a politician per se. This was not something that was on my radar. I was not in specific government classes. I did not volunteer for elected officials. However, I had the opportunity to move to California in 2002 and attend grad school, and I made a new circle of friends. And I do credit the Bay Area with helping me to develop critical thinking skills, because even though I was a straight A student, honestly, I didn't know what was going on, and I voted a certain way because my family voted that way. I engaged in helping people, but I didn't really understand, you know, the decisions that elected officials make. I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't think that was very nice to be involved with. Well, then I met my husband, I met a bunch of other friends, and we started talking about things, first at the national level, but then really looking at the local level. And we have this little project up the street called the former Concord Naval Weapons Station. And I started getting inspired about the promise there. And I started volunteering with different groups just to build my network, because I was new to the area. So getting involved with women's issues, that's also always been important to me. So a number of women's groups, including the Commission on the Status of Women. I was involved for years with the local Democratic Party, with the Sierra Club. You name it, I was involved. And then there was an opportunity in 2010 that was unexpected to me, because one of the council members was not running for re-election. And so I was encouraged to run for city council. Now, granted, I had only been in Concord a little under 4 years. I had been involved at a regional level, not at a city level, but I learned so much and really fell in love with Concord running for office. So I was one of 10 people running. I was not successful at the time. Thank goodness. I was not prepared. But then I had a choice. I had a choice of, okay, do I continue to do all this regional work, or do I really focus in on my city? If I want to be a city council person, I need to really understand what goes on here. And so I spent 6 years involved in everything that you can think of, from business groups to community events like the Art and Wine and Beer Walk, to serving on nonprofit boards, and did have the chance to serve on the city's Design Review Board and Planning Commission. So that when I ran for city council in 2016, I actually knew what I was doing or thought I did, and the people agreed. And so I was elected to the council. So that's kind of the pathway, and that's what I tell people. If you want to get on the city council, please join me, because I still volunteer all the time. And that's where you meet the people where they are. They don't just want to see you when you're knocking on the door for re-election. They want to see you when you're cleaning up the neighborhood, when you're doing a beautification event, or you're visiting their child's school for something.
Yeah. I love everything that you just said, and everything that you said was very important. The fact that, hey, this wasn't my family's legacy. This is not something I grew up really being involved in, and realizing that when your circle changes, you change. My man always tells me, like, your 5 people that you're primarily going to be around or are around, that's who you're going to be like an average of, I guess.
That's interesting.
It is.
And it's true.
It is. And he's like, you have to change your circle, because if you think about it, you hang out with a bunch of negative people or people who aren't motivated, you're not going to be motivated. You're going to be negative. You're going to be around people who enable you, as opposed to having people in your life who's going to take you to another level, who's going to pour into you, who's going to establish community and take you to where you're supposed to go. So that really resonates with me, and I'm happy that you did, acknowledge that, like, hey, I didn't start off like this. I just got involved in my community and I found what I love. And that's the important part, just getting out in the field and like finding what you love, do things, volunteer things, you never know, things that are out of your scope. So I thank you. I appreciate that. I guess one of my next questions is, I think was like from one of our members. They were like, well, what party is she on? Is she a Democrat or is she a Republican? And that was very important to him. So I do want to ask you that question.
Sure. And so I think I already alluded to it. I think I gave the grand reveal in my previous answer. So my family growing up, everyone was registered as a Democrat. So when I first started voting, that is how I voted. Yeah. And then when I moved to the Bay Area, I really did evaluate everything, and I am still registered as a Democrat and was involved with the Democratic Party leadership. However, what I really want to emphasize is that I am elected to represent everyone.
Right.
And when I was running for re-election, there were people who had signs for both presidential candidates, or either, I should say, with my campaign sign right next to them. And I would go to the door regardless of what kind of flag people had flying, because, again, it's my job on the council to represent everyone. So, and the city government, what we are really supposed to be focused on is quality of life here.
Yeah.
So we don't really bring in partisan issues. I would say that's not really something that we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But of course, because I am registered a certain way, yes, I do have a point of view. But what I will just say is, within the political parties, there is certainly a gradation, is what I would say too, of and a Democrat in Western Pennsylvania is different than a Democrat in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. Thank you for acknowledging that. And it's important. Like, hey, I serve the people. It doesn't matter what flag you got going on. What are your needs? What are things that are plaguing your community? What's wrong with your roads? So
they are not partisan, nor are the potholes.
Gotcha. Disclaimer. Gotcha. Thank you. Well, my next question is, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do outside of everything?
Sure. So I do really like to hike, and I'm thankful that we have so many beautiful spaces that are nearby in Concord and Contra Costa County. And that also has a connection to my public service, because when you serve as mayor and on the city council, you don't just go to city council meetings. So that might just be another misconception that people have. There is a whole... It really depends on how involved do you want to be, and I like to be involved. So, for example, there are advisory bodies that I serve on. One is the East Bay Regional Park District Park Advisory Committee. So I represent all the city council members in Contra Costa on that regional body. And I'm really excited because we are in the process of opening a new regional park. It's the Thurgood Marshall Regional Park, home of the Port Chicago 50, which Yes, which many people don't know that history. And I've been working, again, this is not my city council work, but there's a connection because it's located within the city of Concord. And so I've had the opportunity to work with some amazing people who really took the lead on the exoneration of the Port Chicago 50 last year. And I'm looking forward to when that park becomes a place where people from all over the country and all over the world can go to learn about the history, the start of the civil rights movement that we are still in, quite honestly.
Yeah.
But so I like to hike. So that also, so as a park advisory committee member, sometimes I get to go out and see some of the other parks.
Yeah.
I like to bowl, hence why I'm going to be organizing this bowling fundraiser for October 4th at 1:30 at Clayton Valley Bowls. So save the date.
Save the date.
Yes, exactly. I'm a musician. And that's another way when you're asking at the beginning about mental health. So I've always, when I was in high school, up until age 17, I took private piano lessons and was involved in competitions and things. And sitting at that piano is very therapeutic. And as I practice, it helps me to work through challenges from the day. Now, I don't get to do it as often as I'd like, but one of the reasons I discovered Concord is because I play the piano and organ at Queen of All Saints.
Yeah.
Sometimes on Sundays. And so that was my first connection to Concord. And so I still do that. I just passed my 20th anniversary doing
Congratulations.
that. Thank you.
Yay.
Yes. So those are a few of the things that I really enjoy doing that are hobbies. I think I would consider those to be.
Okay, cool. Good for you. My last question, what's next for Carlyn? After your term expires, are you going for governor? Are you going for president?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I did just get reelected. So I'm really focused on, because you should always focus on the state of life and the opportunities that you have in front of you. I think that that's a mistake sometimes that elected officials make where they're not enjoying where they are today. And they're always thinking about tomorrow. And then you get to the next level and the next level. And when is it good enough, right? So right now, being mayor is all consuming. So I am really focused until, I pass the gavel in December to the next mayor, right? And so I just am trying to be the best that I can be because for all I know, this is the last chance I'll ever get to do this.
Yeah.
So that is really what I'm focused on right now.
Yeah.
And then keeping the promises that I made to the people of District 2 for the 4 years. People want more road work. They want speeding to be addressed. We also just last night had our budget meeting because we have to do a little bit of belt tightening. So I guess what I'm trying to do is really lean into and enjoy the opportunity I have now. Because I'll be honest with you, next year, Brianna, it's not as glamorous to have council member Obringer in here. You might not ever want to talk to me again, right?
I'm gonna always want to talk to you.
But let's use the privilege of that. America's favorite title is mayor, right? So let's use it for good while we have it. So that's what I'm focused on.
Wow, how inspiring. And I appreciate that. And that's another part of being grounded is just being present and being able to soak up your accomplishments and what you're doing now instead of like, okay, what's next? Even this interview, we scheduled this interview a couple weeks ago, and when I met you, it was just like, okay, let's do this. And then all this preparation, everything's been happening in the clubhouse, personal life. But then this morning I was like, wow, I get to interview the mayor. And I had to take time to really process that and just be grateful. Be grateful for that and not think like, oh, what are we having for dinner tonight? Okay, my son, who's going to watch my son next week? Just like,
yes.
You're interviewing the mayor today, and be the best you can be in that interview, So we appreciate you coming by. Carlyn, before we wrap up this episode, is there anything else you want to let us know? You want to let our people know? You want to communicate to everyone?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me this morning or this afternoon, actually. Thank you for watching, and I just want everyone who is part of this community to know that you are special and important. I live just around the corner. I really could have walked here if I was a little bit more organized. And I've been involved off and on with Connections House and previously Putnam Clubhouse since I was elected in 2016. And this is a very special community. I'm really proud to have you physically located here in Concord. And I look forward to continuing to partner with each and every one of you. So thank you for your interest in this conversation today. And I am accessible. So if you need something, please feel free to email me at my name, carlyn.obringer@cityofconcord.org.
Right on. This has been another episode of Connected. Thank you everyone for joining and listening, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.